Okay, in addition to the fox and the ornament, there's two other ones that I think are pretty cute and actually pretty interesting for how little amount of work is required. So this one is kind of some birch trees, kind of snowy woods with a red bird, a cardinal in them. This one will need some of the blue painter's tape, and we'll talk about that. The other one is another fox, but a little bit different. So again, in the snowy woods, has a little fox. You can see the little tracks in the shadow and see how his tail kind of goes over into the tree to create the white part of the fox's tail. But then it's just plain trees and shadows. So orange and kind of a brown, a blackish brown. Those are only two colors that this one uses. This one's got, you know, whatever colors you want in your sky. I chose blues and I used some salt so that it created kind of snowy look, and then black and red. So again, very few colors, very few parts to it. So let's see. Let's start with the little fox in the woods because it's going to need just a small amount of dry time. So if you'll notice, there are some trees that start further in the distance, some that are kind of middle ground, some that are in the foreground up front, and then some little twigs, some little, just to make it look, you know, slightly more realistic. So I need to mix up a blackish brown. So I'm working with a small bright brush, so one of the flat ones for my tree trunks. So let's see, a little bit of black brown in one of my wells. And for this one, I put my card where it is portrait style, so it's vertical, so it's long, it's tall. All right, so again, just a little bit of black, a little bit of brown. Kind of got a lot of black in that one, so I'm gonna go back, add a little more brown. And for the trees, they're going to be, let's start with this one up here. That's the closest to the fox. But first, notice I'm gonna go a little bit of the ways and then stop. Because what I'm gonna do is create that little wedge that's cut out of it for his tail. Remember, his tail has that white part. So, and then I'm gonna go the rest of the way, all the way to the edge of the paper. Now notice how it got lighter. I need to go back in with some more pigment. And I just wanna put it right over the top. I may need to actually create some that's not quite as watery. So hang on, let me stir up a bit more. This is a little bit darker. You can always go back and make it darker. It's hard to go back and make it lighter. And then I may decide, just because this tree is closest where I may have a branch come off to the side, you know, it doesn't really have to, and I don't have to have a lot of detail. I just a couple. And then again, same thing, a little bit further back, another one. And if they're not perfectly straight, that's okay, because although these types of trees are fairly straight, they're not like with a ruler straight. They're not perfect. And then I'm gonna do one more kind of here. And so these I'm doing with the brush flat down, with as wide as it's going. And where I kind of created that place where they connected, I'm gonna put a branch there to kind of help disguise that. Kind of hold my brush at an angle that I don't normally while I'm working on the camera. Okay, so these are the kind of big ones. So now I'm gonna put a few smaller ones. So I'm gonna hold my brush on the side, the thin side. And let's see, I'm gonna do one right here. And it's okay if it's slightly lighter, because as things get farther away in the distance, they appear lighter. That's called atmospheric perspective. Like, you know, mountains, you ever seen like hazy mountains? The farther away the mountains get, the lighter they look. That's what that is. So that's it. Maybe a little twig up close, just with the very tip of the brush. Maybe even a few scragglies at the top of it. Let's see, I'll do one more right here. Just for something interesting. Okay, so that is it on those for the moment. I haven't used so much water that when I pick it up, it'll run. I mean, it's one of those kind that it will dry pretty quickly. So I'm pretty good. So then what I'm gonna do is get a little bit more watered down. So I'm coming back into my black brown that I mixed with a wet brush, and I'm creating shadows. So from the trunk, from the side of it, I'm going straight across. So from here, straight across. Same thing with this little one, straight across. This one up front was a wider tree, so I'm coming back to make it a little bit wider. Same with that one, that was a bit wider of a tree. And that's it. Well, for the trees, I'm gonna put the little fox in there, but that's good on that. So while my trees are drying a little bit so that I can put the fox in, I'm coming in with a little round brush, a little one that's got a point on it, because I need to make the fox's tracks. So still with this black brown is gonna be my little shadows. I'm just kind of putting little dashed lines alternating to look like little footprints. I don't know if you guys can see that. There you go. Now for my little fox, not a lot of detail. So I'm coming back in with a orangey red. And his tail's gonna be first, because it comes right up to that tree where that clef is cut out, where that little triangle wedge piece is. That's the end of his tail. Can you see that? So I don't have to, zoom in. There you go, like that. I'll leave it right here for the fox part. And then his body, just kind of a little oval. And then I'm just giving him 2 legs, like he's standing together. And then his head is gonna be a little triangle like this. So look at my triangle, and then I'm gonna fill it in. And then I'm just giving him 2 little ears, 2 little lines for ears on the top. Again, he doesn't really have a tremendous amount of detail. When it's all dry, if you wanted to put a little nose on him or eyes or whatever, you can. You don't have to. But that's my little fox. Okay, so let me back out. That's it. That's it for this one. Little fox in the woods. Adorable. Looks like it came out of a storybook. Cute, cute, cute card. Anybody you gave this to would love to get it. Very cute. All right, for the red bird in the birch trees, this one's fun and easy. You're gonna need a little bit of tape, just enough to kind of go across our picture a couple of times. So I'm gonna get 2 strips. Now, our painting is small, so I'm not gonna put this whole strip across it, but I am gonna take it and I'm gonna cut it, tear it in half, and I'm gonna put the straight edge. Here I'm going a little bit of a diagonal, slightly, not much. And then here's the other one. So the other straight edge on the left again. So maybe this one is more straight up and down. And then I think I can only fit 1 more, but that's okay. So you can half a piece of tape with somebody. Pull this one in half, share it with somebody. And then this little one, I'm gonna lean again. Actually, look how my tape is wider on the top and thinner on the bottom. That's kind of the opposite of what trees do, so I'm gonna flip it. Thinner on the top, wider on the bottom. And it's leaning a little bit too, just to make it interesting, okay? So now with a bigger brush, we didn't talk about this one yesterday. When a bright brush, I told you, is the one that's like flat and straight. When it's curved like a fingernail on the end, this is called a filbert. And you can remember it because of finger, filbert. So anyway, So I'm going to create what I want for my sky color. I'm gonna come in with some turquoise, and I didn't tape the edges, which is fine because I'm not going right up to the edge. I'm going up close to it, but not all the way to the edge. And I'm just tapping in different blues. So a little bit of water, a little bit of darker blue, a little bit of lighter blue, letting them mix as they go. The water is what's gonna help them blend. Maybe you wanna put in a little bit of violet, really up to you. If it's sunsetty, maybe towards the bottom you add some orange or something. Be careful with the oranges and yellows though, they'll start to make it green in the sky. And I can add some rock salt to it if I want to make it snowy in the background. And again, I have not brought any to my table with me, but this would be a good chance for you to sprinkle some salt on there. All right, so for number 4, let's do foxes. They're adorable and super simple. It took me a couple of times before I kind of figured out how to get the spacing right on the face. But, you live and learn, so. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I made up a little bit of a red-orange, and I'm working with a round brush. Get my new paper. And again, I'm working on the flat side, not the textured side. So a round brush and mixing up some red-orange. I need it pretty saturated, so a good amount of color in there, not real watery. It's probably a little more red than I actually meant, but it'll work. I mean, I guess you could work with kind of bluish, purplish if you wanted to do like an Arctic fox that's meant to look white. I don't know how to do those real well. I'd have to experiment with some to see. All right, so here's my color. So, excuse me, think about the spacing. I'm gonna have one fox here and a little one here. So this is going to be the fox's head, and I'm going to paint a heart. And it's a small heart. I want you to notice that. So a small heart, because we're gonna add so much more onto it. We're gonna add the body, we're gonna add another fox, all that kind of stuff. So it's about the size of my fingernail. So go ahead and put one little heart for the fox's head on the left side of your paper. Go ahead and mix up your red-orange. All right, once you're ready to move on, we're gonna close that valley of the heart. My bristles of my brush just poked out, but that's okay. It just makes it look like his fur is sticking up a little. Okay, so I'm gonna close that valley of the heart for the top of his head, and then I'm gonna come over and do a little side mark like this, and one like this for his ears. I have one bristle that's doing its own thing. It's annoying. So go ahead and add your ears. It's just kind of the tops of the ears. Again, this is what we're after. So notice this shape before I paint it. This one's kind of like a comma. So round for the back and the hind quarters, and then it comes down under the heart, under the nose for the tail. So a comma is kind of the shape that we're going for. So I'm gonna come up near the cheek, near the ear. I'm gonna make this circle shape. And then under the nose, it's not really touching the nose, but under the nose, every time I say that, it then touches. I'm gonna make the tail. the end of the comma. And they're just curled up. It didn't have to look like anything special. We're gonna add the extra little parts once it's dry. So go ahead, add your comma for the body. All right, so for the baby one, I'm coming in with a lighter orange just to kind of lighten this up a little bit. You don't have to, but I'm choosing to because that mama fox was very, very red. All right, so on this side, again, a little heart, smaller than the first one because it's the baby. And then close off the top. So go ahead and add your heart. I'm picking up some of my paint because it's got really thick. Okay, the little lines for the ears, smaller than the first one. And then the body is gonna be a backwards comma. So this one's kind of like an E, like the letter E, a lowercase e. So, and I kind of got them a little far apart. That's okay, they don't have to be touching. I wanted them to be, but they don't have to be. So the circle part and under the nose for the tail part. I don't know if you kind of see how I get a letter E out of that, but anyway. I mean, I guess I could put a third one, another little baby fox here in the center to kind of bring them all together. I think I'm going to do that on mine just because I like them to be cuddled up next to each other, touching, keeping each other warm in the winter. So I'm going to add one more. This paintbrush is driving me nuts. Okay. Now my first one that I did, first card with the foxes that I did, I made, I showed you some lines underneath it for like grass. And I added some golds and greens to it because I wanted it to look like it was kind of fall or, you know, dead leaves or dead grass, kind of stuff like that. And then I was like, hold on, I wanted it to be winter. So the next one I came in with some purple and blue. And then I made little snowflakes in the sky also. I guarantee you this brush with the stray hair is not going to be working well for me on this one, but we'll do our best. All right, so make a blue with a little bit of purple in it. You know, I mean, real watery. You don't want this one to have much color at all. So even after you pick up some blue, you may want to dunk it back in your paint cup. And you're not touching the foxes. So we're just kind of putting a shadow underneath them and in between them. And I'm leaving some room for the white of the tail. Notice that. Oh, shoot. It touched. That's, you know, I mean, that's just the nature of watercolor. It does not like being told what to do. Just when you think you've got it figured out, it's like, oh yeah, watch this. All right, I'm picking up some of this purple again. I'm not going to come back and add more here because I'm afraid it's going to go into my fox, and I don't want an orange and purple fox. But I am going to put a little bit right here. And then I'm going to lighten up my brush on my paper towel to get rid of some of that and come in and move it out a little bit, spread it around. And then if I don't want a harsh line, I'm coming in with just clean water. So my brush is clean, and I'm just going to soften that edge. And then you can go back in to add snowflakes if you wanted. This brush is a little fat. If I were you, I'd use a really thin one. I didn't bring one of those over to the table with me, but you get the idea. And if I feel like they're too dark, you know, you could always come in with a super tiny piece of paper towel, Kleenex, whatever, lift it up. That'll take out some of the water. All right, so it's gonna dry and we will add the features on the foxes in a moment. So set it aside, and for the last one, the ornaments, I'm using this piece that I had taped down here. All right, so what this one is going to use is this glass or the lid that you may have at your space. I'm gonna decide what color do I want that ornament to be. And I think, because I've got a bunch of this red orange mixed up for my fox, I'm gonna go ahead and use that. Trying to get in more of the red than the orange. And then what I'm gonna do is get my brush really, really covered in it. And I'm gonna paint, it does a little bit better if I do it upside down. I'm gonna paint the edge of the glass, the rim of the glass, around all sides. I tried it where you like dunked it in a plate of color and it was too much. It didn't work real well. So I've found that this method works better in just applying some color to the rim of your glass. And then before it dries, kind of near the bottom edge of your paper, set it down. I left more space on top than I did on bottom. And then I'm gonna lift it up. And then before it dries, I'm coming in with that same brush that's really wet. And I'm taking this water right up to the edge. And it's gonna pick up that paint that the glass left behind and move it around. So I'm coming in still with a bunch of water. I'll come in with more color in a minute, but right now I've got to move kind of quick before that edge that I put down with the glass dries. And I don't have to get every piece of paper covered, because some of the places where there's white left behind, it looks like a reflection, like this did. The white paper was behind. So I'm gonna let that sit for a moment. I noticed on this one edge, it kind of got a little flat here, so I'm gonna try to straighten this out a little bit, curve it out a little bit, anyway. All right, so go ahead, get your glass, and when you're done with it, just kind of roll it on your paper towel or whatever so that the next person who needs to use it does not have to have the same color that you did. Although it's kind of fun. That's how some of these mix, is they got touches of purple and red violet and stuff from me switching colors. So go ahead and mix up a color, paint the rim of your glass, touch it down, and then with water, come in and kind of flow it all together. I'm gonna give you a second to do that, and then I'll show you what comes next. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm gonna come back in with the same color. And mine's still kind of wet, so I'm just coming on the bottom side because that's where the shadow is gonna be for me. And I'm just touching more of it down and then pushing it around. It doesn't have to spread out evenly. That's what makes it interesting. I may even come in with more pure red and less orange red, because it was pretty kind of brownish red in what I had mixed up. I didn't really enjoy that. And if it's too much, if it's too dark, too thick, I'm gonna come in with clean water and touch the edge of it and just kind of let it spread around again. You just kind of let it do its own thing. This would be another fun one that if you wanted to put salt on, you could. You don't have to. And so that's gonna be that. And then real quick, before I move it aside, I'm gonna mix up a blue-green for the pine tree. They're not really a bright green. They're more, you know, the evergreen colors definitely got more of a blue kind of look to it. And then I had taped this on my other page. That's okay, it doesn't have to be taped. I'm gonna come in with some straight lines, go in all different directions. And that's gonna be my branch. I'm gonna give it a second to kind of dry a little bit, and then I come back in with more of the blue-green. And I may make it a little bit thicker, a little more painty, less watery. Because what that will do is it'll make these background ones lighter and seem like they're farther away. Whereas the richer, darker colored ones will seem like they're closer to the front. And they can go all different directions. I mean, they're going up, they're going down, but they're all kind of going to the right on mine. And that's it, except for the pen on it. So it's gonna take some time to dry. And so I'm gonna show you this while you're doing that. I just took a pen and I drew a line that disappeared into my branches, came down, made the top of the ornament, the little cap, the little hook, the little circle, the ring, and then tied it on. So that's all I did with the pen with this one. So I'm gonna move this. Slide it over. So I want to show you the box real quick. So for the foxes, they need their eyes, finish their ears, a nose. So I'm doing eyes closed, finishing their ears, do a little nose, and then their tail, kind of bushy tail. Their cheek is kind of a fuzzy cheek, sticks out, little zigzaggy line. I made the tail come up a bit, and then a curved line for their hind quarter, their back leg that's tucked in. And that's it. So put these somewhere safe. We're going to be making 5 more tomorrow. We'll go a little bit quicker. Yeah, and then we'll add on to it, and then I'll show you at the end of the week how we're gonna turn them into cards. But for now, go ahead and clean up and put everything away. Any of them that are still wet, just put in the drying rack and you can add the details to them tomorrow. All right, so you're also gonna need a card that's like a mess up, that's a scrap piece, because we're gonna use it to drag across some paint on the edge. So let me grab one of those. So here's what I've got. So I've just got a piece of card because I'm gonna use this edge to drag, like for the tree stuff. So while that's doing its thing and drying, I'm gonna carefully peel off my tape and remember, if you're wanting it to not tear the paper, if you take it at like a 45-degree angle where it's going sideways, or I'm pulling sideways and down instead of just straight down, it's less likely to take the paper with it. Oh, but look what I did. I hate it when that happens. That's because I wasn't waiting for it to dry. I should probably wait for this to dry. Okay, well, let me give that background a chance to dry. Okay, back to our cardinal in the birch trees. So now I'm gonna use that little tiny round brush again with the point, because I'm gonna create these branches that are kind of going across. Sometimes they cross over, sometimes they cross behind, sometimes they don't cross at all. And I have just a couple on each tree, so you don't have to have a ton. So if you still have any of that dark brown black that we used on the fox, you can use that, or you can come in with just straight black. And then from one of your trees, just kind of follow it kind of off into the sky. And give it some little thin ones kind of on the edges as well. Think of which one you might want to have a bird on if you want to add the cardinal. I'm going to cross over here, and this is the one that's going to have my bird on it. Okay. Now for the black marks that come across the trees, I need the black paint, and I'm gonna make a real thin line down one side. A little bit thicker than I meant for it to be. I'm gonna go about halfway, stop. I'm gonna get a piece of paper and drag it. Touch down, drag it over. Come back and get a little more. So I feel like that's really dark. It's a lot on there. So I'm gonna skip this time and do kind of a dashed line going down. I like that a little better. Same thing on the next one. Kind of a dashed line going down. Kind of run my finger down the edge of that to clear off any paint that may still be on it. Drag it over. And if I ever feel like I missed some, like I should have put more in there, you can come back in with more. I'm gonna put a little more there. Yeah, I like that better. I think this blue that smeared onto my tree actually makes it look kind of like the shadows, so that's okay. I would like some more right here. Pick up some more paint. There we go. And then if you wanted to come in with your brush, you can come in and add more, like those kind of strokes if you want. You can add some on the other side that may not have got anything. Just kind of adds to some of the realism, the effect that's going on. I think it's helpful, but little itty bitty tiny lines. So not a whole lot of attention to detail on this. All right, so when that's all done, if you use salt and you've got everything dry and brushed off the salt, then just come in with a little bit of red for your red bird. I'm gonna put mine right here. You're gonna do an oval for the body. Let me zoom you in. You can see my red bird a little better. Okay, little oval, little line on the other side of the branch for the tail. And then their heads have kind of an interesting shape to them. Where is he? Right there. Because they've got that little kind of mohawk going on. Elliot as a bird. I'm just teasing. Anyway, so kind of put it in there just like that. And that's really it. So again, super simple, super pretty, cards today. Fun with some of the animals. Yeah. So once those have had a chance to dry and everything, make sure you sign them because they are little miniature works of art. Put your name, initials, or something like it on it. If you want to add any writing to it, like Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or whatever, then that is totally acceptable. So hang on to them. We're going to add them to our colored paper and envelopes later this week, and you're going to turn them in for the grade. So put them somewhere safe.